Greetings and welcome back to Smartwatch Ticks. Today we're beginning a theme of productivity for your smartwatch, and we're going to launch that with some Oh my. Wow. I love these watch faces. They're so much fun. Anyway, we're talking productivity. We're going to be exploring some apps that are going to allow you to do things that, well, first of all, you won't ever need to touch your buttons again. Well, maybe one to turn it on and turn it off. I mean, hard turn your watch on and off. But other than that, what you're about to see, you won't need to touch the buttons, which is good because that's a physical thing that in time might go bad for you. And you don't want to have a dead watch because of a bad button, right? Everything you're about to see will be able to do on the screen. Beyond that, everything you're about to see you can do without going into the watch. Going into the watch, I mean you touch it and you go into the watch, right? Which is where all your apps are located, right? Yeah? Then you go into a particular app. And you do that to go back. And there you are at your main watch face screen, your lock screen, if you will. What you're about to see is going to let you go and navigate and do things right here without even going there. We're going to look at display brightness, of course. We've taken a look at that before, and that's the little slider that's over here on the side. You see the color there that lets you touch it and adjust the brightness up and down, including negative brightness. I'm not going to touch it because I adjusted it for the camera and the lighting here so that the screen looks good. But that's from Rubber Big Pepper when you search on the Google Play Store for display brightness. Next, we're going to talk about assistive touch for Android. There's the rectangular kind, and there's the round kind. And to show you those, they're the little buttons on the side over here. You see a couple of buttons. If I touch the top one, I go into the rectangular version of this. And there's also some videos that talk about this in particular, where you can go home, clean the watch if you want to, tap that, and it'll do a little bit of light housekeeping for you. There you go. You can go into your favorites, which is what we're mostly going to be using this for. And you could do all sorts of good things from there, too, including going back home. The round version of this looks like, whoops. If you don't hit it right, you do go into the watch. Looks like this. Same basic app. You can clean it up again just like that. You can go into all the other apps that you've installed. And you can do a whole bunch of other stuff as well. That's assistive touch round. Okay? Multitasking. We're going to find that this app lets you do things, especially like browsing in a little box that floats on top of the watch. Tiny apps let you do a whole bunch of little things. We're going to go through and watch each of those too in detail. Flippr, which flips widgets on your watch. Yes, indeed. You know, we've installed widgets on the phone, right? This will allow you to install widgets on your watch. But remember, I said we can do all this without going into your watch? Those widgets will appear on top of your watch face. All right? And then you're going to be blown away by Floating Launcher 3 by TKGKTYK. There's several floating launchers out there. This is the one you want. And then Swipe Home button, which does something different than when you swipe up from the bottom and bring up the display of your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and stuff. This actually lets you control by the way you swipe where you go and what comes up, like that. Ooh, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Okay, let's go back and play with the assistive touch round. We'll start in there. You've seen the other one. We haven't played a lot with this one, so let's go in here. You can lock the screen down, which is the same as pushing the button on the side to actually lock it. The first time through, you need to go through and set the parameters that gives it permission. And once you've done that, it closes up. Okay? Now, it's off, so I can't double tap or swipe or anything. So the only way I can get it back on is to push the side button once, or if you're on this watch and you've seen that, we can press and hold this one for a little while and let go. And what that'll do is bring you up into the emergency screen, swipe down, and you're back onto where you were, which was enabling that. Well, I guess we have to exit it. Enabling that assistive touch app. Okay. Another way you could do it, of course, is if you have it turned on, is just turn your wrist and the watch would come on. So there's ways of bringing it on without touching the buttons. Let's see now. We were going into assistive touch. Whoops. If you missed the button, you're not there. And you can lock the screen now. We've seen that. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all these kind of things. Adjust your volume right here is to vibrate only, mute, or active volume. And you have settings over here with all these different settings. And watch this carefully, which is why this round version is really nice. You see this one here? I click on that, and I have instant access to all of my apps. Every one of them. Let's see, these scroll. So they're scrollable display of all of the installed apps. So whatever you want to go into, now you have a different kind of launcher. This is something that's way more user-friendly, especially on this larger watch, to get to all of your apps than what we found when we were working with just the basic touch, because they're all in there as big icons and they're linear. This is much, much nicer. Let's see what happens if I swipe up. I go right back to the home screen. That's one of the benefits of that last one we were looking at. So that's some of the stuff that assistive touch round will do for you. You can touch the middle and go into a whole bunch of other apps, including multitasking, which is this one. When you go into multitasking, you've activated it. And when you pull from the side, you get a little menu. And that menu includes things like an active browser, a calculator, a calendar, camera, which we don't support, compass, which we don't support, a currency exchange thing, file explorer, like on the watch itself, gallery for your pictures, map if you've got map activity going on, a music player, and news, and a note, and a paint application, and a voice recorder, and a stopwatch. Hey, folks. How many of you wanted a stopwatch and it didn't come with it? Text pad for writing memos, text to speech, a translator, a video player, and weather. And if you pay the premium, which I haven't yet, all that comes with it. You can have access to YouTube, SMS messaging, Gmail, and Torch, which is a flashlight, which doesn't work, so it doesn't matter that you can't see it on the screen. Want to play with one of them? Let's pick something. How about that stopwatch? Where is that? Stopwatch. Touch. Boom. There you go. With laps and everything. Stopwatch on the screen. Pause. Reset. Exit out. All by swiping in from the side. Now, you got to do a few things of adjusting. You got to make sure that you're not going to swipe in and mess up your brightness control. I have that skewed a little bit higher, and then this thing takes up the whole length, but you can adjust the length. So if I swipe below, you see there's the bar, I let go, and I get my multitasking menu, and I pick out whatever I want on here, and I'm on my way. Unless I touch the screen. Tiny apps. Let's go back into our round. Well, let's go into the square one. I think I got that in the favorites in the square one. Tiny apps is right there. I'm going to touch it. And I have loaded a page of really tiny apps. These look like when we saw all of the apps. In fact, there's a button for apps right there. This is commercial supported, so if you're connected to the network, you're going to get ads on it. If I touch apps, I now get, as it loads them up, another way of displaying all of my apps. If I'm looking for a specific one, I could type it in, Or, can we see this? Let's see if I can get this thing to focus here. Well, best we can. Your whole list of all of your apps in a scrollable alphabetical format. No longer are you jumping all over trying to find the apps because they're not sorted in any way that makes sense on the watch. They're right here in a little square floating on top of your watch face, and you could open up any of them that you want. Like my ghost detector. I guess you gotta put it away. Okay, I know, we've already played with this, no need to do it again, but it's just so much fun. There's a ghost. Right behind me off to the right. Done with that, I can go back, or I can flip up, hello, and come right back to my home screen because of the other app that we're going to cover. Tiny apps. Let's go back in and look at them a little bit longer. Because there's so much here. We have, wow, another audio recorder, another paint program, music, another stopwatch. There's a lot of similarity here, but they're laid out differently. And again, you can pay for upgrades to things that get you the gallery and system info, which is pretty detailed, actually, and so forth. The app, tiny apps. I'll let you explore more. Okay, then. What else have we got beyond tiny apps? We have Flippr. Flip widgets anywhere. Again, widgets are amazing. That's one of the selling points of Android, but we have not been able to put widgets on the watch until now. This little half moon you see over here is Flippr in action, okay? What happens when you install it? You can simply set it up to slide, and it can go through all of the different widgets that you have available that will be installable on your watch. Look at that. Now, these are specific widgets that happen to work with the watch. Not all of them do. And that's unfortunate because it would be really cool if a lot of them, like the news apps and weather apps and such, could actually work. So again, I'm requesting that those of you who are wanting to play with this and add widgets to the watch, if you're willing to go in there and install a variety of your favorites and test them out with Flippr to find out if they will indeed install on the watch, please let us know. I'd like to get a compilation of apps that are widget friendly so we can actually have them on the watch. You see, I went quickly through them. I can actually touch and hold and go slowly, and you can move through them just by sliding like that. And if I've got this right, I can slide up, and I can go into a bunch of buttons that I've put in here, like for settings, or for you're playing your music, or all of these can be links to other apps or shortcuts. All of that's explained in Flippr. So when you load up Flippr and go through it, you can understand the process of how to create these. You can move this button from the left to the right. You can make it high or low. And when it boots up, it stays in that place, which is really important so that you don't, have it off the screen or something. So Flippr is another one that you want to play with. And Floating Launcher 3. What can I say about this? This is amazing. Remember the creator, TKGKTYK. Pretty good password if you threw in a number and a symbol, huh? Here we go. I have this so right up there that you saw when I'm somewhere and I flip up gently on the bottom of the screen, it takes me right back to the home screen. If I flip longer, it takes me right into this window, which is Floating Launcher 3. And it really is a launcher. I've put a lot of the apps that I really like, and you can add them and move them around simply by touching and holding and dragging. You can relocate them to different positions. There are shortcuts, there are apps, and there are bookmarks to web pages, and there's multiple pages. So over here, I've got all of these kind of things, including a quick mute for audio, a big mute for muting everything, including phone calls and stuff, just by touching the button, super mute. All volumes muted, and I'm right back to my home screen. Long swipe up, and I'm right back into my page. Okay. Here I've got things like my Django music player, my Stitcher news player, my voice player to read articles, my speed reading app, and on and on. You'll put your favorites in there. You notice the bottom row doesn't move. It's really a launcher, a really nice launcher floating in a square with nothing off the screen right on top of your standard watch face. And it supports widgets. What? If I touch here, I get the list of all of the apps, I guess, that I could install. Whoa, come back here. How did I do this? Okay, I'm in the list of apps at this point, and if I want one, like this one, I can click and hold and bring it up here and install it, and it'll be there. And if I tap again, wow, somehow I was getting widgets the last time. Now I'm getting apps, which is fine. Good for you guys to see how you do that. Move it all over the place. Oh, notice that the Google bar is always across the top too with the microphone. Okay, Google. No, that's not active. You have to touch it. Then it goes active, I guess. Well, I guess I need to study it a little bit more, but touching that bottom square or circle, maybe a touch and hold. Now it's bringing up apps now, but there is a process by which you can bring up widgets, and then you can actually install those widgets right on that page, just as if you were doing it on a regular Android phone. Okay? That, my friends, is Floating Launcher 3. You top it off with the swipe home button that you've been seeing me use already to swipe up a little bit. Well, swipe down, of course, I can put that away. I swipe up a little bit no matter where I'm at, and it takes me home. That was a little too much. It brought me into that. I can go down, I can swipe a little, and it brings me home. I could swipe off to the left. I've got it set up to go into my slider, because sometimes this doesn't come up, or it comes up but then it goes away. It's a little finicky, and sometimes you got to go into it to make sure that your brightness control is on the screen. So I made my flip up to the left do that, and if I flip up to the right, it brought me into my assistive touch, which I can turn on or turn off. Now, normally I'm only going to have one. I don't need both round and square, and I'm pretty much convinced I'm going to use round on here. So this one brings me into and out of that. And if you accidentally grab the dot and put it somewhere where you can't use it, by swiping and bringing this up, you disable it and enable it, and it returns it where it belongs. So for me, having my volume over here and my assistive touch control over there, and my come back straight to the home screen there, and my flip up to my launcher, Floating Launcher 3 there with all of its pages. Hey, I don't even really need to use this thing, but I can. Amazing. Productivity on your smartwatch, unlike you've ever seen before. And there's more. Thanks for watching Smartwatch Tics. We'll see you again. Well, this isn't good. I stayed up most of the night stewing over the last video I just recorded, which is the one you just finished watching, thinking, well, that turned out pretty good, and those apps are incredible. But you know what? Each and every one of them has a dark side. And I didn't mention any of that, and some of them could get you into some serious trouble. So I'm going to do this addendum, part 2, if you will, the downside of each of these apps that we covered, because it's just the right thing to do. Just because I went through all the pain and suffering doesn't mean you have to, right? So let's take a look at these. Remember, we started with display brightness. That's the little slider on the side that you can take and move and change the brightness to whatever level you would like. It's a great app, unless you set the negative brightness too low. Mine goes down to 80, and in a dark room, I can still see enough of the watch to navigate around. But if you leave it to go all the way to 0 and something happens and you can't find your way around the watch, you're in real trouble. So you got to be careful with this. When you activate it and you scroll down and you find the place where you can turn on negative brightness, which is right here, allow negative brightness, there's a big bar, and you can touch the edge of that and slide it to select, well, that's the color. There you go. Set the minimum brightness. Can you guys see that? A little dark. I'm on full brightness, I believe. It says set minimum brightness, and you can touch and slide this, and then you can test it to see how low it will go. And be careful, you don't leave it to the point where it's going to get too low to see the screen. That's the lesson for going into negative brightness and the overall app display brightness. All right? Other than that, I think it's fine. We talked about assistive touch. I have the square one and the round one, and as I mentioned, I put them both on here so you could see them, but I don't plan to use both of them. In fact, I want to move that one out of the way for right now. And I'm going to take the square one, which is like this. I'm going to delete it, unless I actually used it to lock the screen. If you saw, I'm pretty sure it came out on this when I first did it. If you saw when you touch the locks button, it asks you for permissions to do that. And if you said yes, and you lock the screen, it'll definitely lock the screen, but it also leaves a trail that doesn't let you uninstall the app, at least not in an easy way. So I'm going to show you guys what you need to do to be able to uninstall Assistive Touch or any other app for that matter that requires administrative services to be activated. When you go into settings and you go into your uninstall applications, and you look over the list and you find the Assistive Touch for Android. There's two of them. The one with the little red stripe is the round one. So this one, I want to uninstall it. I'm going to say OK. And I get this warning on this firmware, on this FINOW X5 watch. It can't uninstall it because it's an active device administrator, and it allows us now to manage the device administrators. Previous firmwares, and the firmwares on the smaller watches, the X1, 3, the No.1 D5, they don't say that. They just don't let you do it. Now, you need to get into this place of managing the device administrators and get this page. But it's not normally available through settings, and unless the firmware supports it to get you here where you can uncheck Administrative Touch, take that check mark off, and then uninstall it. If you can't get there, you're sunk. So how do you get there if your firmware doesn't support it? Well, yeah, we first thought you could get there using an app called Settings Search, which I highly recommend. Settings Search, it should definitely be installed on your watch, no matter which one you have. It lets you access a lot of stuff that you can't get to otherwise. And unfortunately, in Settings Search, there is no option to access your administrative services. And that leaves you out in the cold. So install that one, but it's not going to help you in this problem. The only recourse you've got that we found is the actual Google gesture search. You install that and you activate it and you run it, you accept it, and you're done. And now you start, it's got to index all of the applications. First time running here on this one. That will get you to Device Administrator, Developer Options, and so forth. You want to come back to this longer one that says Device Administration, blah, blah, blah. Tap on that, and boom, we're right back to that same page. Follow me? Google Gesture Search, DEV, scroll down to the longer one, then uncheck the assistive touch, say done. It's now unchecked, and now you can go through the process of uninstalling it. Yeah, that was pretty bad, but it gets worse. Wow, how could it get worse? Well, Floating Launcher 3. All right, we talked about that. I was fussing my way through trying to show you how to install widgets, remember? This is the amazing app that floats right on top of your screen, and it looks brilliant if you've resized it. I forgot to mention that you have to resize it. So how do you do that? You got to get into settings. So how do you do that? You get to a blank place on your screen and you press and hold. Now, I've got wallpaper, widgets, which I'll show you in a second, and settings. When you go to settings, you have to set the current window size to 75% so it fits perfectly within your window. If you have it larger than that, it's not going to be a showstopper like you're about to see coming up, but it will be annoying. So make sure you go into settings and set your current size to 75%. Then, if you want to install a widget, remember, to install an app, I just simply clicked here, picked the app I wanted, touched it, held it, and put it on the screen. But if I want to do a widget instead, press and hold. Call up the widgets. This is so like your phone. All your widgets are listed here. And it shows you the size of them too. I don't know if you can see that next to each of the widgets. And if you want to install a widget like this one, I press and hold. And I move to the page I want it on, which is going to have to be the next page. Hello. That's going to tell me I don't have room. So let's slide over to the page, press and hold, get my widgets, pick a nice widget, press and hold, pop it here, and it'll, I don't know if you can see, but I'm moving my other icons around, and boom, now I've got a recording widget. I can tap the record and I can automatically start recording a sequence using the voice recorder that I have installed here that supports widgets. You can move them all around, you can do all sorts of things, and now you've got both apps and widgets available to you. And you can control everything. You can get back into the app itself that way. You could pause it, you could stop it, you could throw it away, you could save it, you can do all sorts of things. Okay, all from Floating Launcher 3. All right. You ready for the last one? Tiny apps. Tiny apps was so cute, right? We could launch tiny little apps. And we just go in here. Uh-oh. I think I uninstalled the wrong one. Oh, no, I haven't uninstalled it yet. That's right. I'm using the buttons here. Anyway, that will be gone, and I'll move that one back. I'm bringing up tiny apps. We showed you all these beautiful tiny little apps, and I even showed you that the app button was active here, where I can get an alphabetical list of all of my apps in a nice little scrolling list. What I didn't tell you is, before I put this on for video, I went in here and I played with a lot of these different tiny apps, and I resized the box. You see down here, there's a button, and you can resize the box, and if you grab it in the top, you can reposition it. And I had done a nice little scaling of this, not on the watch, because it's full frame on the watch, but using MobiZen mirroring. And MobiZen mirroring I've talked about, but if you're new to this, you need to install this on your watch, and on a PC, you go to mobizen.com, and you can link the two together. You get a picture of your watch rectangular on your PC or Mac, and you're able to navigate to the corners. And I could grab this corner that was previously off the screen and move it to where it was on the screen. Then, once I had it on the screen, I could either do it on the watch or in the movies and position it however I wanted it to be. Well, you get the picture. So what happens if you don't do that first? Well, this is going to be my swan song to this video because you're about to see. Let's go back into our tiny apps and let's play with widgets. Widgets, remember, is the fun thing that we had in this little one here, that we could put all the widgets across the screen, right? But we're not going to do that. We are now in the tiny apps, and we could pick any particular widget we want. Goodness. Hangouts, health, home screen tips. There's all sorts of widgets. Not all of your widgets work, though, from other apps, but the ones that do work are here. Let's try power control. All right, there I got power control. I can turn my location services on or off. I can turn on Wi-Fi if I want to. I can do all sorts of things with this, except close it. It's off the screen down here, the ability to size it, and the X box is up here. So swiping it would close it? No. This is floating, remind you, over my watch face. And all of these commands have no effect on the floating things that you have on the screen. I can bring this up again and float it on top of that particular widget. That's fine. It's not running right now, but I could probably bring over the what was that one called? The multitasking, which we had the side thing that would bring up another menu. None of that will help me out of this mess, though, of trying to close this. I can't move it, I don't think. I can't do anything. I can go tap notice. Oh, that's the swipe up thing. Well, let's see. If I swipe up, I come home. If I swipe way up, I should load up the other Launcher 3, but it might be loading behind this one. I fussed with this for a long time, and the only way out of this situation, if you do not size the box first before opening it on the watch, the only choice you have is to shut down and reboot. And I hate to say that is not a good solution. So if you're going to use tiny apps, be sure you resize all of the windows you might use ahead of time, because you're not going to be able to on the watch, and you won't be able to close the screen. I don't want to end on a sour note. I want to end on an upbeat note that all of these are incredible, including the swipe home button that you can use to go all sorts of different ways. There's more you can do with it. I didn't show you just 3 of them. But play with these, have fun, but be careful, because productivity is a double-edged sword. Thanks for watching. I feel much better now. I can get a good night's sleep. Good night.